Hi, my name is Ashley Ballard, and again, it is a joy to join you through this video. You probably have seen the previous two videos, the first one, understanding your emotions, and the second, managing your emotions. Well, in this video, I would like to discuss with you raising your emotional intelligence, raising your EQ. Now, you may be familiar with the term intelligence quotient, which is your ability to reason. And there's usually tests that you can take that gives you a number to determine how great you are at reasoning. It determines your mental abilities, basically. Now, your EQ determines your mental and emotional toughness, as I like to put it. But it determines your ability to understand, recognize, and manage your emotions, as we previously discussed in the other videos. I think in a time like this, during COVID-19, because that's also a lot of what we've been talking about, right? Surviving COVID-19, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. You need a high EQ, to be able to survive during this time, to continue to sail through the storm. Your EQ is really what helps you to be able to bear through the various demands and stressors that life can bring even without COVID-19. And so the greater your EQ, the greater you are, again, at being able to recognize your own emotions, but also the emotions of others. You know, that ability that I mentioned in the other videos where you can look at someone and you can just step back a little bit and say, you know what? They may be feeling an emotion, and that is what is causing them to react and respond in the way that they are in this moment, but also realizing that we're all experiencing this same storm, but maybe not in the same way, right? So in raising your EQ, you are giving yourself an opportunity to really be successful as we wait this storm out. And so one of the critical skills that you would need to be able to raise your EQ, I am going to discontinue saying IQ, to raise your EQ is to be able to identify your thoughts. Now, again, for those who may not have seen the previous video, your thoughts influence what you feel, and your feelings influence your thoughts. So to identify your thoughts, you're able to know, again, how they impact your emotions. And so in this particular video, I want to focus on negative thoughts especially. We call negative thoughts ants. I don't know about you. I don't think anyone, well, some people may like ants. I'll take that back. I know plenty of people who have had ant farms and that nature, so they'll, keep ants as pets. I personally I have a very strong dislike for ants. Their quick movement and how they can just come in such so many at a time and just infest and take over your space, right? So I love the term, the metaphor, ants, which are in your brain, and you can think about all of the ants. So ants stand for automatic negative thoughts. When a negative thought comes to your mind, it usually moves like ants. It's usually more than one. And to be honest, even if we like ants as a pet, when it comes to being in our home outside of the confined ant farm, ants really do a disservice to our space, right? They're not clean, and depending on the type of ant, like if it's a carpenter ant, sometimes they can do more damage to your home than even a termite. So thinking about ants in our brain, they are doing a disservice to us because usually they're rapid and they're moving and they're feeding us information that we actually have not been able to prove as fact or true. So when you have these moments where you're experiencing ants in your brain, what you want to do is catch them. You want to contain them so that you can remain in control of your actions and your reactions. Now, when you catch the ants, these automatic negative thoughts, you're practicing also, you need to practice what's called a positive reframe. So you capture the negative thought, and then you reframe it with a more positive thought, okay? Now, I'm going to give you an example in a moment of how to do this, and a personal story of where I experienced ants, or, at this automatic negative thought. I did not give it a positive reframe, but I'm going to show you where I eventually realized how I could have replaced that negative thought with the positive so that I could have saved myself some anxiety and fear that I experienced in the moment of that negative. So first, what you do is you assess the thought, because you do have to determine whether or not it's negative at all. It may not be negative. And so when you assess the thought, you ask yourself, how does this thought make me feel? Does it make me feel scared, nervous, happy, excited, or sad? You are thinking about, how does it make you feel physically? Is it adding to your life in a positive way, or is it causing negative feelings and negative bodily experiences? Is your heart racing in a negative way? Are you feeling nauseous because you're nervous, right? So then when you ask these things, ask yourself, how does it make you feel? You also want to ask, is this thought true? And if I don't know if it's true, can I actually confirm it to be tied to a fact? Like, how do I know that this is true? How do I know that it's probable? And if you cannot prove it to be fact or true, then you in that moment need to begin to help yourself by replacing it with a positive alternative, a different frame, a different statement, a different thought, okay? So then when you're asking yourself again, how does it make me feel? Can I prove it to be true? Or can I prove it to be fact? If it does not make you feel good, if it does not feel positive to your body, and if you cannot prove it to be true, then you want to go ahead and think of some alternatives. Think of some, well, maybe it's not this, it could be that, and that should be more positive. Reframe that thought, okay? So my personal experience was, one day I was at work. It was a long day, and I was actually ending my day, probably had like about 5 minutes left. And my boss called, the CEO, she called me, and her words were, "Hello, Ashley, do not leave the office just yet. I need to speak with you." Oh, okay, yes, ma'am, sure. I'm here, I'll be here. I'm going to come and meet with you before you leave. Deep breath, even right now. How do you think that made me feel? If it were you, how would you have felt in that moment to be 5 minutes from, packing up and leaving, and this abrupt, unexpected call, very short, I need to speak with you. I need to see you before you leave the office. Okay, so let's think. I had a few thoughts go through my mind. Oh no, what did I do? Did I do something and I'm not aware? Am I going to be told that I'm going to be let go? What is going to happen? They were all negatives. I did not think anything good, okay? So she gets there. Lo and behold, she was there for me to sign a bonus. Unexpected, but I was signing to receive a check, okay? Now, after that, of course, I get in the car and I'm processing, girl, you could have really saved yourself some of that emotion, some of the negative emotion, some of the negative thoughts and feelings, had you simply caught those ants and reframed, giving myself an alternative thought that was more positive. Not just positive in my thinking, but positive in my body, because maybe I wouldn't have had the rapid heart beating. Maybe I would have just felt a little more calm. The nerves would have subsided, but I didn't. So of course, an alternative thought could have been, oh, maybe she wants to come and meet with me and talk about a promotion. Maybe she wants to come to talk about an opportunity for me to attend a conference. Even if I didn't think as big as a check, a bonus in that moment. But there were so many other things that I could have thought about instead of thinking that I did something wrong, and instead of thinking that I was going to lose my job. So we can see how in little moments, very quickly, like an ant, just shoots and comes through the mind, and it can take over all of us, right? So just as quick as they come, we need to catch them just as quickly and put them in their place. I call it, catch those ants, right? Just catch them and put them away and give it another thought, okay? So I hope this was helpful for you. I believe that you can too probably think of your own moments in the past where it was something that you really just let your thoughts blow out of proportion and you were thinking things to be worse than what they ended up being after all. And so if you can't recall a moment in the past, do know that if a moment like that comes, remember ants, automatic negative thoughts. You don't have to allow them to run rapid in your mind. You can catch them and you can support yourself by giving a positive reframe, an alternative positive thought to help you feel better, to manage your emotions. And this is just one of many great tools to use in raising your emotional quotient. Thank you and be blessed and keep safe.